Hello and welcome back to You're A Goddamn Cheetah with me, Jenna, the Scorpio Moon Coach. How are you? How are you feeling? Today's episode, I'm going off piste already, which I didn't realise I'd be doing this early on, but today's episode is actually, I recorded this a couple of days before I launched You're A Goddamn Cheetah, and I've been really going through some things, and actually I thought it would be really helpful to just explain to you what is going on in my head right now and how I'm feeling, and just be really honest about that, in the hopes that you're going to resonate and you're going to get something from it. So the podcast launched on the Cancer new moon, so it's a couple of days before that, and to be quite honest, I am feeling like I want to delete the whole thing. I've properly I launched today, and I've had loads of lovely messages from people saying they're really excited and they can't wait to listen on Monday, and I have been finding it really hard to receive that. And yeah, like I said, I've wanted to just delete the whole thing. I've wanted to kind of basically retreat to my bed and almost like just go to sleep and just try and numb out from it, basically, and hide and I wanted to share that with you because I am so excited about this podcast. It feels so out of my comfort zone, but for lots of reasons which I'll go into. But it's also like this, the book Untamed means so much to me, and all of the magic and the lessons in there, like it really speaks to me, and it's like I feel really passionately about bringing these lessons, bringing this magic, like from Glennon, just for more people to discover this book and to like hear these messages, because I feel like they're so important. So I'm incredibly excited about it, but at the same time it's just like my whole body and my mind and like the stories I'm telling myself right now is like, this isn't safe, Jenna. Why would you put yourself into like, it feels like a vulnerable position? Like, why would you put yourself out there to be seen, to be judged or ridiculed, or like, why would you put yourself like out in the open? And that's what I'm really having to push against today, and kind of work through that, and thank God, like I it's in these moments actually that I think I realize that I have done a lot of work on myself and a lot of work on my mindset to even actually be able to acknowledge that that's what's happening and have an awareness of it, of like, it's literally coded within me to keep myself safe and to actually keep small, you know, not to just stay part of the group and like don't kind of stand out too much, because that's kind of dangerous. And I'm really grateful that I have worked on myself enough to kind of acknowledge that and have an awareness of that and know that that's what my body is doing. And so I just need to kind of push through that. But it is hard. It's so hard. Oh my goodness. And a lot of the things are that I think my fears at the moment is that I'm going to release this podcast and someone's going to be listening and be like, what is she talking about? Like, God, she's, you know, she's not very smart. She doesn't make sense. Like, and also like, who is she to be like doing a podcast, you know, that fear is kind of coming up. So I guess the fear of rejection of my thoughts and my opinions and just what I have to say. And again, a lot of that comes down to, I get, you know, just like these limiting self-beliefs that I guess we kind of we get as children and we take through to adulthood, which is a lot, you know, I've done a lot of work on that recently in terms of like trying to understand that and get to the bottom of like why that is there. But also in terms of like astrology, and I love a birth chart. I love looking at my own birth chart. Your birth chart is this unique blueprint of who you are, like your personality, like who you are as a soul, what you're here to do. And it's this wonderful self-discovery tool where you can kind of keep coming back to it. And the thing I found really helpful recently, like discovering in my own birth chart, is the placement of Chiron. And Chiron is an asteroid. And the meaning behind Chiron, it's like your soul's wound. It's a pain point that make life, make being you particularly difficult and painful. And it's sometimes we're unaware that it's even there. And if we are, it's like it's we don't want to look at it. We don't want to address that pain inside of ourselves. And my Chiron is in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. Oh, that the air signs is very much in the mental realm. It's like how we communicate, share our ideas. Gemini is curious, and it's like it's so sociable and chatty and articulate, and it has all these ideas. It's really buzzy. And when you have when a Chiron in we have Chiron in Gemini, it's a real like your wound is fearing that you kind of can't communicate, that people don't want to hear your ideas, that your voice and what you have to say isn't valid, it doesn't have value. People aren't going to understand you. You're going to be like there's a whole like fear of miscommunication. And oh my god, I have carried that for so long, for as long as I remember. And I remember finding out where it was and just being like, oh my god, it spoke to me. Like I was like, Jesus, like that is me. And it was kind of really, it was almost like comforting in a way to just all of a sudden have an awareness and be able to acknowledge it and be like, yes, that is the thing, that is like this block that constantly stops me from speaking up and feeling like I can speak my truth and that people want to hear what I have to say. Like I constantly like battle against that all the time. And then hearing that was my placement in my chart, I was like, of course. And then the other thing is where that placement is in my chart. Your chart is split up into 12 houses, and each house is like an area of life, like a theme of life. And my Chiron is in the 11th house, which is about community and friendships and groups. And you know, I've been pretty good having one-to-one conversations. Like I'm so here for like all the deep conversations, but I think there's always an underlying fear of like, am I coming across okay? Like, am I being boring? Like, do I sound stupid? Is what I kind of feel like a lot. But in terms of like talking in front of like I was going to say a large group of people, which is definitely true, but it's almost like sometimes just more than two people would like spin me out a little bit, and I'd feel like I couldn't contribute, or just what I had to say basically wasn't good enough. So I think there's such power in knowing where your Chiron is, and one, so you can get an awareness of it, but Two, so you can start to lean into it, because I think when you start to lean into your Chiron, the whole point is that loads of healing comes from it, so much healing. And it's not something that you can ever, I don't think, truly like fix and resolve, but I think it's just you gain more every time you lean into it. You get a little bit more healing. Every time you lean into it, you get a little bit more healing. It's just like, it's just this journey, I think, of your lifetime, to just constantly be looking at that Chiron and leaning into it. So that's what I've been doing. It's like doing a bit of the inner work and these limiting beliefs that I've carried through childhood into my like adult life, and then also this Chiron placement and like working on that. And so, as you can imagine, this podcast has been a real test, I think, and a real really, it's me leaning into that Chiron for the healing. And I've massively enjoyed the process of recording them, and I feel like, you know, there's so much more that I have to say, but I think today on like the precipice of launching it and leaning into all of that, I'm really feeling it today. Really, like, the fear is quite wild. And yeah, the me just wanting to basically go to bed and just fall asleep and not think about it, it feels really like good right now. And I think the reason I'm sharing this is just to, because I want to tell you the truth of what this experience of like launching a podcast has been. And I want to always be relatable, and in the hope that even if someone is out there feeling like their voice doesn't have value, or they couldn't ever possibly like launch a podcast, or like who would possibly care what I've got to say. So if that's you right now, I want to tell you that there are people out there that want to hear from you, and that your voice does have value, and that if you want to launch a podcast, go bloody launch a podcast, or whatever it is. Like, you need to share you need to share your truth, and your passions, and whatever it is that you want to create, that there is space out there for you, so to take it. Because, you know, and I think one of the things about the podcast as well is that it is a bit rough and ready. Like, the audio is not amazing yet. You know, it will be. I know that as we go along, I'll refine it and learn more things, and I'm sure get more kit. Because I'm currently recording this with no microphone. I'm just kind of doing it on my phone, which that's fine for now. It's just like, sometimes I think we get so caught up in all of the, it needs to be perfect, it needs to be to a certain standard. And I was even feeling that a couple of weeks ago, because I was listening to like a podcast that I love, and comparing this highly produced, highly successful podcast to my own baby podcast, which I've literally only just kind of birthed and started recording, and like trying to compare the two. And I remember, like, you know, reaching out to friends and then being like, what, you can't compare those two right now. They're like, they are miles ahead, you know, steps ahead of you. Like, come back to where you are, like at the beginning of something. And it's okay to be a bit rough around the edges, and to work things out as you go. I think for so many things, I have held myself back, because I thought all my ducks needed to be in a row. Things needed to be perfect before I could launch the thing, talk about the thing. And that's just not the case at all. That's like one of the biggest, I think the biggest learning lessons that I've had is that we can work things out as we go. We can gain enough. Once we start to trust ourselves more and more, it's like, you need to trust that you can navigate your way through it and learn the things that you need to do, like on the go, and it will just get better and better as you grow and learn and develop, and that's okay. And I just want to take you along for the ride, really, of me working this out. and I hope that this will just be the permission slip, just even for one person to be like, who's thought about doing a podcast for however long and just thought, oh God, I don't, I wouldn't know where to start, or I don't have the kit, or no, who cares what I've got to say? Like, I care. You need to put that message, whatever it is, put it out into the world, because there is someone out there that needs to hear from you. So, I just really felt like I just needed to share that. And the other thing, actually, this is the other thing. So it's like being scared of putting myself out there because it's making me feel unsafe. Basically, I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and that always feels scary. Like our bodies, like our minds, they just want to keep us safe, with like also like kind of no change. Like, we know where we are, we know what we're doing, like don't change things, God forbid. So like there's a level of like feeling unsafe right now because I feel like things are going to change and I'm putting myself out of my comfort zone. Like the whole, my voice doesn't have value, like people don't care what I've got to say, which is like limiting beliefs and like this Chiron placement. So I'm like really like leaning into that at the moment. And then the other thing is the fear of, it's not even fear of failure, it's actually fear of success. It's fear of this podcast doing well, and fear of people actually listening. that is what's also, that's what's spinning me out a little bit as well, because I launched like the little snippet trailer today, and that, the messages I've had from that have been so lovely and so supportive and so excited for me, and it's that scared me, and I think it's and then I was kind of like, so I was in this kind of like mindset. I was actually lying on bed just like doing a bit of doom scrolling, as you do, which is like, oh, such a bad habit that I'm trying to break, and I know we all do it, but it just never makes me feel good. But it's just like, basically, and we know this, it's just like my way to escape of the thoughts. Anyway, thank God I came across this reel, and it was Alicia Keys. I don't actually know what it felt like she was reading a book, but it didn't really say in the caption. But she basically said this sentence, which is, and I'm probably going to butcher it now, but it was like we fear our own magnificence, and we fear that we are not enough. And I feel like that's so like me right now. It's like I'm feeling like this whole, like, Untamed for me is all about breaking out of these cages that we've been put in, that we put ourselves in through like society, like other society really, and like these limiting beliefs that put us in cages and want us to stay small and to stay safe, and God forbid we think there is any more out there for us. And all of the themes around Uncaged are about breaking out of those cages, like dreaming, like leaning into like self-trust and trusting our own, listening to our intuition, and just remembering like our wildness and the power that we have within ourselves. And that in itself, I think right now I'm feeling it's making me feel scared. So I just really wanted to share that with you. It felt important to share that with you. Because I want this to be the kind of space where I can be really truthful and honest and just share my experience. and how I'm navigating it all, because that's what I said that I was going to do. And I feel like this is why I resonated so much with Untamed, is because there was so much honesty and truth and like rawness inside this book that really spoke to me. And I feel like if I can follow that as well, then I'm just going to stay on track with what this podcast is going to grow into. So yeah, I actually feel so much better saying that all out loud. This is the other thing, it's like these are all like thoughts and going on in my head, and it's constantly telling me, like, I don't know, it gets all jumbled when it's up here. When I actually like verbalize it and speak it out, I instantly actually feel better. But yeah, what I'm learning is that, you know, all this Chiron and the limiting beliefs and everything has been stopping me from actually speaking my truth and getting it out loud. And when I actually do connect and I do share my truth with others and it is understood and it's well received, I'm like, actually that wasn't so bad. So thank you so much for listening. Like I said, I went a little bit off piece this episode, but I did feel like it was an important thing to share. I will be back next week, digging into another chapter, one of the many magical lessons that Glennon Doyle has to share in Untamed. And I just, you know, as I said, I'm recording this before it all goes live. And I'm so, if you're listening right now, I am so grateful you are here. And yeah, it just means the absolute world. Right, wherever you are, have a lovely day, evening, and I will see you next week. Love you lots.